Hello and welcome back to Champions and Beyond. It's finally here. We finally have the Deadpool announcement from FFG for Marvel Champions, the living card game. So, yesterday, as of recording, was day 3 of Gen Con, and fairly early on in the day, we had a picture of the Deadpool hero pack and basically confirmation that it was coming. FFG put out in the evening their in-flight short, is what they're calling them, on YouTube, where Tony Fanchi, one of the lead designers of the game, decided to discuss the upcoming product. So they also revealed 2 cable cards in that video. I'm going to put the link to the video in the description below. I'm going to quickly cover those 2 cable cards, and then we're going to get on to Deadpool. So the first cable card that they announced was Greymalkin, and I'm hoping that I've said that right. It's a 2-cost support, it's a location, and it has the response that you exhaust Greymalkin and you generate a lightning and energy resource. Now, this is important for Cable because I believe we've already seen one of his guns, and you have to spend a lightning resource to trigger that to deal damage equal to the number of side schemes in the victory display, up to a maximum of 4, I want to say it was. Now, it also has another response that whenever a side scheme is defeated, you ready Greymalkin. So this works very similar to Quicksilver with his friction resistance, and as anybody that's played Quicksilver knows, that friction resistance is one of the most broken resource generators there are. It's a very good resource generator. It readies up whenever Quicksilver does. This is 1 cheaper, but it's going to be harder to trigger. It doesn't have a limit of once per phase like Cable does on his hero card, so he will only get to ready once when he defeats the first side scheme. But if you can continue to defeat side schemes, this will continue to ready and give you that resource. That one was a Cable specific card as well. Before I go any further, the second one was actually a basic ally that's going to come in with his deck, and it was Deathlock. We're finally going to get a Deathlock. So Deathlock is a 4-cost, 2 thwart, 2 attack with 3 life, and he has a hero response when he comes into play. You get to search any player's discard pile for an upgrade that costs 1 or less and add it straight to Deathlock. Thinking about it going forward, it, like several other cards that have been recently revealed, will get around trait locks. So if you have a buddy across the table from you that is playing a Guardian and they have Honorary Guardian in their discard pile, you could grab that and put it straight on Deathlock, which would then allow you to play stuff like the Plasma Pistol and the Comms Implant. Or you could do it with an Avenger and suddenly add Power Gloves and Sky Cycle. If the player across the table from you was playing as Aggression, you could go and grab the Energy Spear, because I believe from reading this, it will get around any kind of trait lock, similar to the likes of Make the Call getting around trait lock, and the new player side scheme that goes and gets a 3-cost support and puts it into play will also get around trait lock. So it can be quite interesting, the possibilities, and I haven't fully thought up every possibility yet, but there's going to be an interesting deck build there. Now, do I think he's going to be an auto-include? Definitely not. Do I think he's going to be an interesting option for a Voltron deck build? Definitely, because of getting around that trait lock. You will only get to do it once, so sometimes if you have multiple upgrades that you want to put on that are trait locked, you're going to have to go for those lower cost honorary cards, but very interesting nonetheless. Now, after they spoke about those cards, Tony finally announced that yes, the next hero pack will be Deadpool, something that a lot of the community, majority of the community by now, have agreed that it had to be Deadpool. And with that, he then said that they had a discussion about aspect, what aspect he should come in. Now, going off all of the old models, everything that we've known up to this point with Marvel Champions, I suspected that he was going to be leadership, because we've had a protection, a justice, and an aggression hero within the wave. So leadership would make the most sense. It was actually announced that Deadpool is going to come with his own aspect. Now, it's a brand new aspect for the game. It is a 5th aspect. It isn't only going to be available to Deadpool. This aspect is going to be available to every hero that is currently in the game. So we suddenly have a new way of playing every single hero that's come out so far. And that does also include multi-aspect heroes. So we seem to have an unofficial answer to the question about how this affects Adam Warlock. Brian V actually managed to corner, I cannot remember the name off the top of my head, but a member of staff at FFG. And it seemed to be that the way that Adam Warlock will work is that you replace one aspect with the pool aspect. That is unofficial currently, but that is what appears to be the case. Jessica Drew, you can have Spider-Woman pool or Jessica Drew pool and have the pool aspect mixed with any of the others. Gamora can go and get pooled attack or thwart events and add that into whichever deck she's running, as well as just any hero straight up playing the pool aspect. So a very, very interesting new development for the game. Very exciting. There is a ton of deck building possibilities as we go forward, and you know, the more cards that we see, especially, we're just going to get more and more ideas, which is fantastic for the community. It's going to be so much fun looking at these new deck ideas, new ways to play heroes. It's just got me really excited. Now, the way that they are doing this is that the Deadpool hero pack will come with 78 cards rather than the usual 60. So this will give some additional deck building options for the aspect. I don't think this aspect will never go to the size of the other aspects. There's no way that they're just going to do 2 or 3 waves full of pool aspect cards. But it will be very interesting as a niche aspect, and potentially we get some cards in the backs of packs going forward, which could be very interesting to still see how this aspect will grow. There is no guarantee of that, obviously. It's just some ramblings that I had, but a lot of not even a lot of the cards, but there are a few cards in there that are already max 1 per player, or max 1 per deck, I think it is. My brain's been going with this since I managed to have a quick look over the article earlier. But before we go in to the article, if you could give me a like and a subscribe, that would help the channel out massively. And let's go and have a look at what they've actually announced, all the cards for Deadpool. So here we have it, Deadpool. Deadpool has 200 thwart, 200 attack, and 100 defense. Nice try, Wade. We obviously ignore those written on numbers. So he has a 2-2-1 stat line, and he has quite an interesting force to interrupt. Whenever Deadpool would be defeated, instead set his hit points to 1 and flip him to his alter ego form. Now that ability to not die comes at a cost, where we have to add an acceleration icon to the main scheme. He has a hand size of 5 in hero, and he has a hit points value of 9, so very low hit points to start the game, to play the game. You always have that safety net of not being able to die. He is X-Force traded, and he is also Deadpool Corpse traded. So, quite an interesting mechanic. You're gonna be pushing your health for benefits, which we'll see in his kit, but you do run that risk of starting to burn through and get more acceleration onto the main scheme. As somebody pointed out on one of the Discords, him and Scarlet Witch against Sandman especially sounds a very fun combination. It sounds absolutely brutal, but it sounds like a lot of fun, and that's what we're all here for. So we're going to look at his alter ego, which is Wade Wilson. He's a mercenary and a mutant. So again, he gets access to any of the mutant specific cards. He has a recovery of 8, so regardless if you get knocked out and flipped down, you can recover and go back up to full health. He has an ability called Break the Fourth Wall, which is an action. Discard a card from your hand and search your deck for a Deadpool event and add it to your hand. So anytime, limit once per round, but anytime you're in alter ego, you can just go and get one of his hero specific events ready for your turn. Very strong ability. You're not going to go through your deck a ton faster, but an interesting ability for him. Has a hand size of 6 in alter ego. The next card is Exhausting Personality. You can do one of two things. You can either choose to place one acceleration token on the main scheme, and you get to stun and confuse the enemy for that, which in solo is going to be worth a lot more than multiplayer, although multiplayer can cope better with the acceleration icon. Or you can exhaust a player's identity, and that player can draw one card for each acceleration token on the main scheme. So if you're playing an event-heavy hero, someone that isn't really bothered about using their stats or has ways of readying up, you can suddenly get that card draw engine really going once you've got those acceleration tokens out. So you get the reward for having the punishment of the acceleration. The next card we're going to look at is called Montage. So this card works very similar to the card Band Together for leadership. This will generate up to 3 wild resources depending on the amount of acceleration tokens that are out. The one benefit this has over Band Together is it does have one wild resource on it straight away. So it's not going to be a dead card in your hand. You know, one resource card generating you 3 resources. We all know how good Shawarma is, or how good the hero-specific ones for Captain Marvel and Hulk can be. We then get to see his signature ally, which is Cable. Now, 3-cost ally for a 1/2/3 stat line, Psionic and X-Force trait, which we should have expected. But Cable gets +1 thwart and +1 attack for each acceleration token on the main scheme, to a maximum of +3/+3. So suddenly he could be a 4/5, 4 thwart, 5 attack. As the game goes on, he's going to be a very good ally. And with your resource generator, when you're up to 3 acceleration tokens on the main scheme, you're just paying that 1 card to get him in. We then go on to his next card, which is It Ain't Over. So this is a 1-cost upgrade, and you attach it to the main scheme. Increase the target threat value of attached scheme by 2 for each acceleration token on it. Now, in solo, this is going to be very good. This doesn't scale, so again, we go back to the likes of Under Surveillance. That is a much better solo card than it is when it scales up. It's still going to be playable in multiplayer, but is it going to be that much more useful? I don't know. I think law of diminishing returns kind of thing on this. The higher the player count, the less useful this card is. But it is going to be useful regardless. We're then going to go and see the next card. So the next card revealed is Maximum Effort. Again, a nod back to Captain America with his Fearless Determination card. Deadpool is definitely mimicking Cap there. So this is an attack event. It's a 0-cost event. And take any amount of damage up to your remaining hit points, deal an equal amount of damage to an enemy. So being able to, if you have this turn 1, just take 9 damage, deal 9 damage to the villain. It will cost you an acceleration token. It's a very interesting design space that they've chosen with Deadpool. So the next card is his thwart event called Yoo-Hoo. It's a 1-cost event, and it is basically going to be exactly the same as the previous card. You take any amount of damage to your up to your remaining hit points value, and remove an equal amount of threat from a scheme. So can also be useful. Again, you're going to then be putting on that acceleration token afterwards. So the thwart option is maybe less impactful. Maybe. But it's, again, a very interesting way to go about this whole damaging yourself to do something really cool. Which is just Deadpool all over, isn't it? So, the next card that they revealed. This card is Fire. A 3-cost event. And it has a forced response. After your turn ends, if this card is in your hand, take 1 damage. So if you ever get this and you can't play it, you're going to take a damage, which is just great. But hero action attack, deal X damage to an enemy, where X is the amount of damage you have sustained. Now, looking at this, you can start to go, if you have a symbiote suit, and if you have endurance, you're on plus 13 health. If you do this while you're at 1 health, you are looking at a total of 21 damage. Now, how often are you going to be able to pull that off? Not very often, but that is the massive payday that you could have currently. I mean, if you also got some buddies around the table to add an honorary Avenger, an honorary X-Men, and an honorary Guardian onto you, you're looking up to a maximum payday of 24 damage. This doesn't have a limit. I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere down the line this does get errated to have a limit of X amount of damage. Whether or not that's a limit of 8 damage, which would only take it to a swinging web kick for damage output. But there's a chance that this will get errated. As it currently stands, potentially 24 damage card, which is huge. The next card that we have is called Armed to the Teeth. 2 cost upgrade, and it has a response. After you play Armed to the Teeth, search your collection for 1 weapon upgrade from any aspect and attach it face down here. Now, they use the term collection, so you can go to your box, you can get something completely off aspect and just get a weapon. You have an action, you exhaust Armed to the Teeth and swap the card attached here with a weapon upgrade that you control. Now, if you're going to go this route, you potentially have the side holster, which would allow you to have 3 restricted weapons out. You can then have this to basically bank a 4th restricted weapon and swap in and out on your turn. Just wow. I mean, for me, the first target that really springs to mind is Godslayer. Regardless of what aspect you're playing, you get a 3 cost weapon in Godslayer out, which is just mad. I honestly cannot think of anything else that maybe you'd want to go for unless you went for the likes of a sonic rifle, but that will then, I imagine, hit your discard pile once you've used the two counters off of it, which will allow you to recur it. But for me, I think for pure value, you're going to be looking at the Godslayer card. But I'm sure there are other people who are going to have other ideas. It has to be an aspect, so you can't choose to get Deadpool, to get Venom's multi-gun. Again, just thinking of other ways to break it, but it does have to be an aspect weapon, so yeah, very interesting. Again, another way to just completely break your deck building options, but a very interesting card. We're next going to go on to Deadpool's Katana, which is a 2 cost upgrade, and it is a weapon. It is restricted, and you exhaust Deadpool's Katana to deal yourself 1 damage and deal 2 damage to an enemy. that attack gains piercing as well. So again, using your health to do good things, well, from a hero's perspective, good things to the enemy. Now, this was the last hero card that they announced. We are going to go into the brand new pool aspect. I'm going to start off with Dogpool. So Dogpool, as you will notice, 0 thwart, 1 attack, but no consequential damage on either. And they have already said that the pool allies will take no consequential damage. But the downside of them is, as you can see at the bottom there, the acceleration icon. So Dogpool has 4 life. He has Retaliate 1 and comes in with Tough. And when defeated, he will deal 1 damage to an enemy. So regardless, if he comes in, say, takes the first attack with Tough, Retaliate 1, takes a second attack, and gets defeated straight off the bat, he will still deal that damage, even though it won't be in Retaliate form. Obviously, you're risking to put him out. His 3 cost, this is the first one for the article, very interesting. Fairly good. I think to help as a blocker for the pool aspect, without sort of, until we know the full amount of cards and the way that the aspect is going to play, it will fluctuate as to how good this actually is. But as a defensive option, it's going to be a bit of fun. The next card that we get is another ally, and we have Deadpool. Also 3 cost, 2 thwart and 1 attack, with only 1 life. The response on the attack is, after Deadpool attacks and damages a minion, that minion attacks another enemy of your choice. It has the Amplify icon. Deadpool Corpse and Zombie Traded. I don't think we've had anything zombie traded before, which is interesting. Who knows, maybe Marvel Zombies at some point. I know that's a bit of a 50-50 subject. You either love it or you hate it. My first thought is the likes of Scorpion. You could attack Scorpion and force him to attack the villain, which would then stun the villain. I'm sure other minions out there that are going to have interesting abilities and interesting interactions with this. So we are then going to go on to an event called Barely a Scratch. Definitely a Monty Python nod there. So Hero Interrupt. Defense, when you would take any amount of damage from an attack, prevent 1 of that damage for each. Crisis, Amplify, Hazard, and acceleration icon that's in play at that time. So the more of these that you can get out, you're basically going to cancel 4 damage for 0 cost. Again, as we've seen with the allies, they take no consequential damage if you just leave them out to attack and thwart. So there is a good chance that you could get all of these icons out there. We're then going to look at the card that was spoiled in the original live video, and it's called I Got This. And Hero Action, it's a 1 cost event before we go on. Hero Action, if the following icons are on 1 or more cards in play. The Crisis icon, you deal 3 damage to an enemy. The Acceleration icon, you remove 2 threat from a scheme. The Amplify, you ready an ally you control. And the Hazard icon, you would draw 1 card. So again, the more bad stuff you get managed to put out, the more good stuff you're going to get out of this. We then get a player side scheme, Live Dangerously, and looking at those last two cards that require lots of different icons, this has all of them. So it is a 0 cost, has victory 0, and comes in with 3 threat per player. Each identity gets +2 hand size, but you have all of those icons to deal with. So the crisis is probably the worst. You're not going to want to leave this out there for too long because nobody's going to be able to deal with the main getting out of control. But who knows, maybe a late game card. This could be quite interesting. Except for, of course, against, is it Strife? That's not going to want you to have a ton of cards in your hand. So yeah, Strife might really like this card if you play it. So the next card, now I love the design space of these next cards. This one is called Cut Upper, obviously, a mock-on uppercut. Hero action, attack, deal 5 damage to an enemy, and you get to stun that enemy. Now, this is obviously far better than uppercut actually is, because you get that stun, but it is max 1 per deck. So, very interesting design space. I actually really like the fourth wall, the mocking of other cards and that sort of thing that is in the pool aspect. The second one is along the same sort of lines. So it is called Get Ragey, and obviously it's a get ready mock. Action, ready an ally. That ally gets +1 attack until the end of the phase. So again, max 1 per deck. But what can I say? This is an upgraded version of Get Ready. And it's going to be fun. I mean, if you can use Deadpool, attack a minion for 1, cause that minion to attack something else, as say if you get an effect like stunning or something like that, great. You then ready Deadpool with +1 attack, you're suddenly attacking for 2 and forcing that minion to attack something else. You can see ways to really start to exploit this, even using Deadpool's signature ally Cable. If he's up to 5 attack, you suddenly do a 5 attack, you get Ragey on him, and he comes back and he does a 6 attack, 11 attack in 1 turn. Oh, the damage is going to be there. So they showed a third along this line of cards, and this one is called Not My Responsibility. And it's just an interrupt. It's no longer a hero interrupt. So you can do it in alter ego, which is great. When any amount of threat would be placed on a scheme, you or your ally takes it as damage instead. So it's a way of killing off those allies that have got the bad icons on them, that are doing you some harm. But being able to do it in alter ego as well is massive. You cancel a scheme, you might as well have just confused the enemy. Again, max 1 per deck. But just, this is silly, but it's silly fun. And it is going to be a lot of fun to build some of these decks and play with some of these cards. So our next card is Healing Factor, and max 1 per player. It's a superpower. It costs 3. It's an upgrade, and you basically get Wolverine's ability. So at the start of the hero phase, or the player phase, exhaust healing factor and heal 2 damage from your identity. Now, this does say identity and not hero, so it works the same as Wolverine's, but you can also heal your alter ego, not just your hero. So we go on to the next one, and it's Get Good. So Get Good is a 2-cost upgrade, and reduce the cost of Get Good by 2 if you did not win your last game of Marvel Champions. It has a forced interrupt. When you would be defeated, you basically get the Deadpool ability. So set your hit point dial to 1 and change to alter ego form instead. Remove this card from the game. So you have to have the caveat that you've lost your last game. This is potentially a good card for anyone other than Deadpool, because Deadpool already has it built in. But yeah, you imagine resetting Hulk, ready for him to have a Hulk smash the next turn, or resetting She-Hulk while she has Gamma Slam in her hand, ready for next turn. You know, the potential is there. Obviously, the potential is always there with a card, but again, this isn't going to be great for Deadpool himself, but in the actual pool aspect, this could be a bit of a cheaty way for heroes to avoid dying and potentially trigger other things. Now, after this, the cards are actually from a modular set, and when reading the article, it states that these cards work whenever a player at the table takes the pool aspect or takes cards from the pool aspect. And by the looks of it, when you start the game, you will just put this first card from the modular set, which is Crisis of Infinite Deadpools. And the encounter set is called Dreadpool. Now, when revealed, reveal the set-aside Dreadpool minion and the Dreadful Deeds side scheme. Shuffle the rest of the set-aside Dreadpool encounter set into the encounter deck. Remove this card from the game. So this acts like a second Shadows of the Past in the deck if you've used the pool aspect. We go on and we have a look at Dreadpool. He has 2 scheme and 2 attack. Dreadpool will come out engaging the first player. He's an assassin and he's elite. When defeated, deal Dreadpool to the player who defeated him as a face-down encounter card. So Dreadpool is then on you for the rest of the game. There's no chance that you're getting rid of him. He has the assassin trait, so if you're playing with the likes of Gambit, that has the treachery card where an assassin minion or all assassin minions activate against you, he will be included in that. So there's an interesting interaction there. Because he has elite, there's none of those cheaty ways of getting rid of him with certain allies that enter play. Yeah, it's going to be nasty if Dreadpool ends up coming out. And the side scheme, Dreadful Deeds, is our next card. So when revealed, place 2 thwart here for each player who controls one or more pool cards. So it's only going to come in with 2 threat otherwise, but if you control a pool card, which, you know, chances are you're going to actually have that if you've started with the pool aspect, it's just going to get worse. It's got an amplify icon. I don't think it's going to be massively impactful, but 3 boost icons on it is going to maybe be more painful to have it in the deck than have it out. So we then have anti-regeneration ray, an attachment. Attach this to Deadpool, otherwise attach it to the villain. So when attached character attacks a non-villain character, treat the attached character's text box as if it were blank, except for traits, until the end of the attack. So if this card gets onto Deadpool or gets onto the villain, you are potentially, as a Deadpool player, this is a way that you are going to die. But you do have a hero action. You can spend 1 of each resource to attach this card to your identity instead. So you can do that and then actually get rid of Deadpool. So it's interesting, an interesting counterbalance there. The last card that we got to see within the article is Poolized. So this is an attachment. It will attach. So when revealed, attach to the ally with the highest cost without Poolized attached. Otherwise, this card gains Surge. Treat the attached ally as a pool minion with a blank text box. Attached minion scheme is equal to its printed thwart and does not take consequential damage. So this is very similar to there was a card in Hela that turns your allies into undead minions. So we've seen this effect before. It's going to potentially take away your minions away from you. But that is it. That is all of the cards that were revealed. Deadpool looks fun, but I think what's got me more excited for this hero pack, this hero reveal, is actually the new aspect. Now, the new aspect, I said it briefly before, you're going to have ways to play new heroes. You're going to have, a brand new aspect to take every single hero. And what we're up to now, we're up to 40 odd, probably close to 50 heroes by the time that Deadpool actually comes out. You suddenly have a new way of playing each of those. I just can't. My head is going to explode trying to think of the different deck building options and deck building possibilities that this new aspect gives the game. I'm nearly speechless. But that is Deadpool. That is what we have to look forward to going forward. The next evolution cycle looks amazing, regardless of which hero you like the look of. I think all of them have their own merits. X23 with the whole honey badger interaction and play seems very interesting sequencing wise. She's probably the one I'm least looking forward to at this point. Psylocke, I think, is going to really add to that confuse lock build with Justice, which I think there's already some decent enough cards to do that. I think it's going to be it's just going to make that deck build more fun. Angel really playing off the aerial. There's some new aerial stuff I think looks great. Cable with all the new player side schemes, just again, not only the fact that this cycle gives us a brand new aspect, but we've also got the brand new card type player side schemes, which is going to change up people's game. Domino, I think, is going to be a really interesting sequence puzzle, and I am actually really looking forward to Domino. Deadpool's a tough one for me. I think he looks like a lot of fun, but I think he's going to be a hero that you either have to really love, or he's going to go stale very quickly. I'm not 100% convinced on Deadpool right now going into this being released, but what I am really sold on is the new aspect and the new possibilities that this aspect brings out in the game. So possibly an unpopular opinion at the end there, but I hope you enjoyed the video. If you can please like and subscribe, I would appreciate it. If I'm wrong, please tell me in the comments. I'd love to get a conversation going with any of you. And until next time, happy gaming.